got 152 yards. Should be just a nice, comfortable 9-iron for him. They're going to go nuts when he hits this thing.
That's dirt.
Yo, yo, yo. Welcome in, golf fans. My name is Joe Idoni. That right there is John Haselbauer. And you have made your way into the Preferred Lines podcast and live stream. We're absolutely thrilled to have you. We have a huge show on tap. We got our final Siggy of the season. We're going to recap what was a grueling, sadistic, and certainly entertaining U.S. Open at Oakmont. Run through our stat models and some of the course specs this week for TPC River Highlands. And finally, as always, give our early shouts and picks on the betting board to win. Thrilled to have you a part of the show. As always, we were brought to you by the good folks over at Rotoballer PGA. Already have my power rankings piece out. The promo code there is LINES to get complete full access to everything that I write each and every week, as well as the other contributors over there. Got the promo code running across the bottom of your screen now. We'd love to have you be a part of the gang over at Rotoballer. John, what's up? How was your U.S. Open weekend? We made it through. It was long, but we did it, man. It was fun.
Yeah. I had a better time watching it than I think a lot of guys did playing it. In a lot of ways, it played out the way I think we thought it would, where accuracy ultimately was rewarded. It's rare to see a major championship venue that doesn't give an advantage to the people who just hit it the farthest. And I can't remember the last major we had where it was like you just cannot miss the fairway, and if you do, you're just dead. And it was interesting because it was just as wet, I feel like, as it was in 2016. Where the narrative was like, it's wet, so it's scoreable, but it made the conditions so much harder because the Sam Burns situation, the rough just getting more and more lush in front of your eyes. Like as it continues to downpour, it just gets thicker and even more of a penalty. So it was a beast. Ultimately, I mean, you have to tip your cap to JJ Spaun, and we'll give him his flowers, but like, in a day where everybody just kept going backwards one by one, he went the other way. And I'm going to call it the rain delay respawn.
Love it.
For JJ, because he was dead. We went to delay and he came back, respawned, new man, and he was the one who said, this tournament is up for the taking and I'm going to take it.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, the funny thing is we, and I'm certainly a victim to this, we think U.S. Open, we want the carnage. We want the chaos. But then we, like, you kind of want that, and then you get JJ Spaun and Bobby Mack and Carlos Ortiz, and you're like, is this what we wanted? But I'll say this, like, about Spaun. Certainly made some putts. I think he had the drive of the week on 17. But JJ Spaun is a clinical stripe-tician. Like, give this guy his doctorate in being an absolute stripe artist, because that was an elite display for 72 holes of ball striking, the best in the field. And it's, it's kind of silly because I think his odds floated to 150 to 1 in some spots, but we see a lot of these long shots win, right? And we go back and we think about how they did it. We're not really sure in many cases. They got some lucky breaks. Other guys folded. Other guys had really bad breaks. Everything possible just went their way, and it was their time to win. That was not the case here, from my understanding. This guy actually got boned by the flag stick on Sunday. He made 5 bogeys, I think, in his first 6 holes. This guy was making 6 a.m. runs to CVS for motion sickness pills for his kids. He had everything stacked up against him. No major championship experience. Didn't even make the U.S. Open, or I don't think any majors last year. And to be quite honest, he played Oakmont Country Club the best of any player in the field from the start to the finish. He played the course. He deserved to win. shout out JJ, man. It was pretty awesome to watch.
Yeah, I mean, if it was a bigger name who drove the green with the best drive of the day on 17 and then hit that miracle putt on 18, it would be an iconic, never forget moment in golf history. And it may still be that way because it's one of the biggest, like, David versus Goliath, and Goliath being the course in this case, instances I can remember where, like, a guy with no pedigree, not that much form, since the players,
Yeah.
um, and did go toe to toe with Rory, and it kind of seemed like, okay, that's his chance, and he never had a chance in that playoff. Like, from the first stroke, it was like, oh, okay, that's the JJ Spaun I know. And you kind of just thought that was his moment for the year, and he had it, but it's not going to happen. And he had some real stones down the stretch. The guy is so even keeled, which is, when you look back at it and you think of these unproven guys without pedigree, and the reason why we don't think they can make it to a major, that, like, they can cross the line in a major, is because you let your mind get away from you and the moment becomes too big. But even in his press conference, like, yes, he let out some emotion when he won, but he was so stoic and even keeled even after he won. Like, you had to remind the guy he just won a US Open. So it's the intangibles really beyond the form that came to light there.
Yeah, I think we got to give him credit for like banked what happened at the players and used it as part of like a maturation process, which I think a lot of big players struggle with. And maybe this was just a one-off thing where circumstances the way they were happened to kind of go his way. But I'll give him the credit for it because I think that maturation process, we're still waiting to see that play out in other players that were kind of around him on the board. Tyrrell Hatton, we're still waiting for that maturation process. We're still waiting for it with Sam Burns and these other guys who, weren't up for the moment. And JJ Spaun was. I wanted to ask you, you kind of touched on it briefly there about the course. Your thoughts. Oakmont Country Club, 125th U.S. Open. Was the test fair and just?
Yes. 100%, I believe it was. You can't control the weather, and they had to make some tough decisions to get the play in. I'm surprised that they did get it all in on Sunday. I thought for sure when we went to delay that we were not getting a Sunday finish, and they handled it well. I could almost hear the sub air flowing when they came back from the pause. So, like, they turned every stone to keep that course in good condition. And listen, like, Scotty didn't play well. It seemed like he was out of it. He finished like, what, 5 strokes off the lead. And as the tournament went on, if you had a 5th round to that tournament, you would have had Rahm and Scotty and Hatton and Vic. Like, they would have eventually climbed their way up. They just played themselves out of position so early that they couldn't get back in. But it was starting to get that way. The way it ended with Spaun over McIntyre was like, whoa, how did we get here? But there was a moment in the middle of Sunday where it was like, oh, here comes Hovland, here comes Hatton, Scotty's making a charge, here comes Rahm all of a sudden. So the big names were coming back. They just played themselves out of it. Give me that type of tournament with a little bit of parity over Torrey Pines, where it can only be the 3 best players who hit it the farthest and longest who are going to rise to the top before it even starts. Give me this type of tournament with a JJ Spaun winner every now and then, every time.
Yeah, I agree with you. There were birdieable holes. Certainly 17 was one of them. There were holes that were extremely challenging, like 15, where nobody look. It was very simple question that it asked, and it's hit it in the fairway. If you're in one of those bunkers or the deep rough in spots or the ditch, just like we talked about before last show, the intention of the people who created Oakmont Country Club was to make it so penal that you couldn't make par from there. And if you were in the rough and if you were in the bunker and it was your guy that you were sweating and you saw him miss the fairway, you had almost written it off right then. Like, this is a bogey. Like, he's going to make bogey. But they were attackable in spots. I thought Gil Hanse does such a good job, and everything that he touches seems to turn to gold. I was really pleased with how it worked out, given that they were really up against the odds with some of the weather. I mean, that place got kind of destroyed yesterday. Like, the fans in there, like those poor members at the club, not only are their lockers destroyed, their golf courses destroyed. So Shouts to Oakmont. We'll see you back here in like 8 years. But speaking of the course and like some of the puddling, obviously a lot of news. A lot of people wanted to talk about the Sam Burns ruling. Do you have any thoughts or a take on that, or what were you thinking as it was happening?
Okay, so I'm gonna say this quietly, but I was at my in-laws' house, and they did not have the golf on the TV, so I was like second screening it on my phone. We were having dinner
Yeah,
during the pause, and then like for the last half hour when it came back, we were like sitting at the dinner table, so I was like kind of sneaking in on my phone.
under the table. Yeah,
Yeah. And so I had no context of the broadcast of what they were saying. I just saw it. And
yeah,
to my eye, it didn't look like it was flooded. And I guess that was the ruling of like you can't see the water above ground, so it's not there. But obviously it impacted the shot. It wasn't even close. He was splashing all
yeah.
around the ball like to show it. So sometimes you just have to use common sense and be like, this guy's not trying to get an edge here. He's literally like not able to put a fair strike on the ball. So I think he kind of got boned there, but you also have to hit a little bit of a different shot. You have to understand this. I'm hitting out of basically a water hazard. So I got to aim, more conservatively here or something.
Yeah.
Maybe hit like a hybrid out of there, just scoop it out or something. I don't know. It's tough though. You put yourself in Sam Burns' position. He's free falling. He needs this to stay in the tournament, and then the ruling doesn't go his way, and it seems like it should.
It was over
And
after that.
just kind of lose focus for a second, and then all of a sudden, Sam Burns I think shot the worst round of the day yesterday, which is a shame. But
Yeah.
conditions just got the better of him.
In that situation, got the better of him. I mean, Bones was right there and pretty much saying the entire time, like, this is a no-brainer. He should get relief here. Two rules officials. He called over a second one. They both said no. Like, I just think it's almost like there should be someone in the booth, like there is in the NFL, that's like the overarching rules lord and can kind of make these decisions to sort of take it off the pressure of the individual people. Just because I feel like they're kind of put in bad spots often in situations to make a judgment call that can really alter the entire tournament. And they're just on the course. I don't know their role. Are they like borderline volunteers? Are they regular? Like, do they have experience? Are they regular PGA Tour rules officials that are now working for the USGA? But there was a situation earlier with Bryson
Yeah.
on Friday that I put out there that like went crazy because he was like mad. And even before I started taking the video, he was upset because he was calling for a rules official for 5 minutes. And it took them an hour to play 3 holes on the open as a threesome. So the play was extremely slow. And I just think that kind of bogs it down. It would just be nice if there was some sort of way that rules official was able to expedite, that process. I think one of the other things I noted that I kind of wanted to touch on, and I guess the more I think about it, it kind of does go both ways. But I've been thinking a lot about the Ryder Cup, and we kind of touched
Yeah.
on this last week because the PGA of America is essentially in charge of setting up the course, right? How do you set up the course to maximize the advantage for Team USA and potentially frustrate the European Tour players? Well, we had talked about maybe like we had thought 4 years ago, we had such this advantage in power and distance that we just want to make it as long as possible. And that's kind of shifting with players like JJ Spaun and Ben Griffin and these other guys who are a little bit shorter. But I noticed that like I'm looking at the top 4 guys on the European Ryder Cup standings right now, and it's Rory. Obviously, he hated the conditions at Oakmont. He talked about him. He was extremely frustrated by it. I don't know what else is going on with him as well. Tyrrell played awesome, but multiple club slams late. Clearly, I don't think it was his favorite type of conditions. Shane Lowry ejected, was throwing a fit as well, throwing clubs, throwing rakes. Sepp Straka did not seem to be enjoying it. I watched a lot of Straka. He was out early. Those are the top 4 guys on the team. So, like, if you're the PGA of America and you're like, okay, maybe this is the kryptonite of their best players is extremely long rough that's borderline unfair.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just enough to kind of get in their head and swing the pendulum back, because certainly at this point, I would say that their roster from a form standpoint, if all things are equal, is looking like they have a little bit of an advantage there.
Yeah, I agree. This was going to be our last litmus test for Bethpage. There's really nothing between now and no, not even Caves Valley. I mean, Caves Valley would probably be the closest thing because it's long, but it's easy. So, like, yeah, I think this was the last chance for a lot of guys to really prove themselves. And to their credit, a lot of the fringe guys showed up this week. Like,
Yeah.
you look at like Cameron Young made a huge step forward this
Sam
week.
Burns.
Sam Burns, Ben Griffin doing it again, being in the mix. And Brooks, Brooks showed
I
up.
know. Oh my God. I was so wrong about Brooks. It's the most wrong I've ever been about Brooks.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't really a factor after the first day, but he finishes T12 and shows you that he can show up on a course like that. He was not on the radar for me with the season he's had for Bethpage. And now suddenly I could talk myself into Brooks if the Ryder Cup was tomorrow. So a lot of guys, this is like almost their last chance to really put themselves on the fringe and just play well the rest of the year. And I think all those guys is like 4 or 5 of them. Even Keegan played well too. Like everyone who needed to show it, like kind of did. So it's going to be interesting selecting this Ryder Cup team.
It is, man. All right, let's do a quick little credit check from the U.S. Open, and then we will move our way on to the Travelers Championship. I'll go first, John. I haven't listened to a lot, but from what I've heard, Vic is catching a lot of strays today. Vic Hovland, about that tournament was his. If you play that back 100 times based on his positioning and where he was the best player. He should have won. I'm going to give him some flowers here and credit, and mostly just because I loved his attitude through the whole thing. He's just like an old soul that is very endearing to me. And I'm just enamored by his vibe. Seems totally unplugged and unfazed by other people's expectation and what's kind of happening in the world of golf around him. And he's just like on this tunnel, lifelong mission to maximize himself and his capabilities. And I appreciate that. From the grinding on the range sessions to, having one of the best weeks around the green of any player, which I think some of us, you see the deep rough and you think that maybe that's a spot where, he chips the best at. He could not get a putt to fall. It still, to me, is starting to feel like a year and a half ago when Scotty couldn't putt. Let's take it back further, like 2.5 years ago when Scotty couldn't putt. And we were like, dude, just change putters. Like, just change coaches. Just do something. And if you can just be a level putter to the field, you're going to win, and you're going to win a lot. Now, I don't want to discount because Victor has already had some really huge wins in his career. But if he can figure out a putting setup, maybe get one of them labs, maybe get a spider in there, maybe get a broomstick. I don't care what it is, but if he's consistently gaining 1 to 2 strokes putting, I think the golf world is his oyster right now, and he's going to win, and he's going to win a lot because his attitude is there. He understands the work and the grind that it takes to be awesome. And he still had moments when I'm like, this guy is one of the best ball strikers in the world. And I witnessed that this weekend. So I'm going to give some credit to Vic Hovland because kind of an up and down year. And he's done this on multiple occasions, from Oak Hill to Valhalla to now Oakmont Country Club. I mean, awesome, pretty big boy golf courses that he's shown up with not a ton of like breadcrumbs leading into it, and has just really played awesome golf. I mean, he was up to like 55, 60 to 1 this week. So
Yeah.
I thought of all like the top end like players that we think of in the world, Vic showed up the most over anybody else. So credit to Vic Hovland. Who you got?
Yeah, I mean, to go off of that too, I was all in on Vic this week, and I was satisfied with what we got out of him. It was my one and done pick, 1% in the Mayo Cup, and that was some good leverage this week because everybody else who had like the top 5 picks of ownership like missed the cut. So big leverage week for Vic. I'm still proud of him for that. It was a good pool week for me with Vic. So yes, was that his best opportunity yet to win a major? You'd have to say so, because he's just chasing like JJ Spaun and Sam Burns, and everybody's falling backwards, and all you have to do is make a few pars coming in. Say that all you have to do is if it's easy, and it's not. I know that, but you look back on Vic's week, and it's like, oh, that first day, what he like 3-putted the first hole from like 20 feet, and then he chipped it like off the green from like 20 feet away. A couple just like mental lapses, and that's the thing that's, you look back and you feel a little frustrated. He's probably catching some ire from the golf betting community because he was at such a good number that so many people were pulling for him. He was one of few people in that mix that actually had backing, because it was such a random leaderboard. But I like Victor in these thick, rough setups because it takes a little bit of that touch out of your hands, and I feel like you're less disadvantaged to the best short game players. And he's due for like a chip in every major. It seems like he's had a couple of those. So I'm with you on Vic. I'm going to give some credit to Adam Scott, mostly because of for nothing to do with Sunday, but his poise in every interview, like talking about legacy. We got a lot of airtime about like deep cuts on Adam Scott. Like, what does it mean to win? Why are you still playing? All this stuff. And all of his comments really underscored like the difference between being a one-time major winner and a two-time major winner. Because you see a JJ Spaun spike week, and you put him in a category of like Danny Willett and Y.E. Yang and Brian Harmon. And it's like, yeah, they're major champions, but they had one good week, and they're not actually a major champion echelon players. And they have the same amount of major champions as Adam Scott and Justin Rose and Hideki Matsuyama, who should have more. So there's a big difference between being a one-time major winner and a two-time major winner. And I love that Adam Scott just like vulnerably put himself out there and said, I'm not a Hall of Famer. He probably could be, but in his eyes, if he looks back on his career and he only has one major, he's going to be like, my career was a disappointment. He plays less tournaments than anybody. He's not shy about saying, I only care about big tournaments. Could he go out and win, the 3M Open if he played in it? Sure, but he doesn't care about that. That means nothing to his legacy. He's set for life with money. So I just really like, he made a fan out of me, out of just like his values, his morals, why he plays the game, not like skirting around questions, just giving honest answers in an age where people are dodging media and just giving like softball answers. So kudos to Adam Scott. I hope he gets it done. So far, it's been the year of the almost for the veterans with him and Justin Rose, but they make for good storylines, and hopefully he crosses the line soon.
Good take, man. I like that a lot. Adam Scott poise in all walks of life, it appears like the ultimate definition of poise. So really cool. All right, that will kind of put a bow on some of the U.S. Open recap stuff. I want to sort of shift gears here to what we have on tap this week because it's a big one, and it comes on the heels in a tough scheduling spot, but love this tournament. Signature event status, Travelers Championship, TPC River Highlands, old school Pete Dye, 6,800, 44 yards, par 70, bent POA mix in terms of the greens. You've got it kind of winds through that neighborhood there in Cromwell, Connecticut, 5 holes with water in play. They've got the drivable par 4 that we all recognize with the steep slope that runs into the water. Just a really fun golf tournament, and always provides a dramatic and excellent leaderboard, I think, down the stretch. What do you have, John, in terms of course notes, specs, things that you have in the memory bank for TPC River Highlands this week?
Yes, we head to the golf-starved region of the Northeast United States.
Yeah.
The only event in the tri-state New England area. Yes, we did get Philly Cricket Club, so there, and Oakmont also in Pennsylvania, neither super close to actual New York. And we will get the Ryder Cup. So I'm like small violin here because there have actually been 4 events that are fairly close, but this year in, year out is always the event that everybody in New York goes to and New England goes to. It's a rambunctious crowd. They bring the energy. It's not waste management because everybody's not there on their bachelor parties and they're just to get wasted. But if you let that kind of be in its own category, this is then the biggest. Actually, I would say the Canadian Open is also known for a similar level of energy that we'll get here. But those two, as far as atmosphere, bring something where you kind of have to have this like made for the arena mentality to
Yeah.
you. It's an amphitheater everywhere. There's people around you. It's packed. It's so loud. I've been once. I think it was the year Xander won. Yes. I went on Saturday, the year that Xander won. And it's awesome. It's such good viewing. The holes are stacked on top of each other. They look nice. It's in great shape. It's an easy walk. The routing makes sense. There's risk reward holes. There's blow up holes too. It's a par 70 that had kept scoring in check up until the last 2 years. And then the secret kind of came out that like you don't have to play this positionally. And now everybody's just tearing it apart. It kind of reminds me of Colonial in that sense before they restored it, where Jason Kokrak and whoever after him won the last 2 ones there. Just like,
Yeah.
Spieth started hitting drive. Like everyone just said like, oh, wait, we can hit it over the trees and not lay up next to them. Okay. And so it just kind of became this like vulnerable to bombers type of course, unfortunately. And I think that's actually changed the complexion of like who can win here. Because it used to be this like level playing field for Brian Harmon, who seems to top 10 at this event every year. Ches Reavie was in the mix like 2 years ago. JT Poston almost won here.
Danny.
Danny was here. Yeah, he's got a top 10 in the last couple of years. Even like Sahith, when he was contending, was like hitting driving iron off the tee everywhere. So it's, you don't have to have distance. It's sort of like the narrative that we had last week, but you can get an advantage for being longer. It ends up being a pretty easy course now. They haven't really adjusted to the advancements in technology of the modern game, unfortunately. It's not the type of course that I thought Scotty Scheffler could dominate at because it's a little bit easier, a little bit more of a birdie fast, a little bit more decided on the greens. And lo and behold, he dominated last year. So now I'm a little concerned. The should I or should I not bet Scotty without market meter is kind of leaning towards I'm afraid of Scotty here more so than I was last week. Just because it's kind of setting up the same narrative of like got his ass kicked by the US Open, disappointed, although ultimately it was a T7, but still it feels like a big disappointment that Scotty wasn't more of a factor that week. And he responded by winning last year in the playoff over Tom Kim. So I'm afraid of him. I haven't placed my bets yet. I could see myself going without Scotty. But yeah, anyway, it's a pretty open. It's open for the take, and there's a lot of guys on this board that I feel like can win or at the very least contend.
Yeah, I agree with most of everything you said there. I think that there is a different way that people are starting to evolve how they attack and game plan TPC River Highlands, with taking a lot more drivers, being a lot more aggressive, really understanding that I really got to take advantage of the holes and make as many birdies as possible versus a more conservative approach that we saw before. But I still see guys on the leaderboard who are just fairway guys. I mean, even last year, Tom Kim, right? Isn't that who Scotty almost lost to last year? Yeah.
Yep.
So Tom Kim hit like every fairway. And there's still that advantage there in play, because if you can go fairway and hit your wedges, and if you're somewhat dialed in with the proximity from 120 to 180 yards, you're going to have a lot of success. I wanted to pull up our BetSperts model here. If you want access to either John or my model, or to build your own, the promo code there is LINES to go over and sign up for a subscription to BetSperts Golf and get access to what I think is the most robust and accurate stat modeling tool on the internet. This is your model this week. Let's go over a little bit, John. Walk me kind of through some of the categories that you thought were most important. Obviously, no surprise, you've done a good job because Scotty Scheffler's number one. Your top 10 is Thomas. After that, Straka, Cantlay, Morikawa, Schauffele, Fleetwood, Berger, Bradley, Morikawa, you hit on a lot of the big names, but like, what are some of the specific skill sets that you're highlighting or giving a little bit more emphasis on this week?
Yeah, I've got recent form notched up pretty high to start on the left there, and then approach is very
Yep.
high for me this week. As you mentioned, it's meant to be a positional course. This is going to be decided by flag hunting, I believe. Um,
Yes.
More so, especially than last week, which you look at what JJ Spaun did. It wasn't because he was firing at pins. It's because he just survived and hit greens enough, but you have to do more than just hit greens in regulation here. So I want the best approach players in good all around form. I don't have around the green that high this week, but I do have that POA blend
Mm-hmm.
in here. We've been seeing a lot of that lately with Philly Cricket Club and TPC Toronto. So some good recency you can pull off of guys who've been putting on greens like that. And then those shorter wedges, so 100 to 150, as you were saying, you just get a lot of those leaves down there. So not just approach, but also double clicking into like that short wedge distance. And then I have a mix of like tee to green on short courses. Birdies are better gained in easy scoring conditions, and bogey avoidance. Because the one thing that's interesting about this place is, yes, you can get a lot of birdies, but the reason it hasn't gone over 20 under in the last however many years before the last two is because there's water everywhere. So there are blow up holes here. We haven't seen water in play in the last couple of weeks. It seems like I don't think there was that much in Toronto. Philly didn't really have much either. So that maybe is a new challenge. It puts, like you said, more of an emphasis on precision, on approach, hitting fairways, being in control of your ball striking is the name of the game here. So bogey avoidance, I like throwing in there, a little atypical of an easy scoring setup, but I like the combination of both.
Yeah, I like a lot of the stuff you had there. You touched on one thing and you probably had it in, but I'm just bringing up mine to kind of give us a little bit of a secondary look here. Oops, give me just a second. This, you have it. Strokes gained tee to green on short golf courses. I think it's important you have short and very short sort of filtered in there. I think it's a great stat to look for because if you're looking at the Memorial, if you're looking at these big boy long golf courses, I don't think you're going to get a true glimpse of who's able to play them the most effectively as you do a 6,800 yards. So it's Scheffler, Thomas, Straka, McIlroy, Rye, Lowry, Tom Kim. You get a lot of these really accurate fairway hitters when you look at Lowry, Kim, Rye, Connors, Straka. These are the type of names that kind of pop up on the majority of these short courses, which kind of leads me into a lot of the guys that I'm interested in betting this week. So let's go through the board. Let's talk about some guys. Let's get some odds. All right, betting prices for the Travelers Championship. Your favorite this week, no surprise, plus 275. Still short of 3-1. You've got Scotty Scheffler. Rory 11-1 is second on the odds board. Schauffele 16-1. Morikawa 18-1. Patrick Cantlay at 22-1. Ludwig Oberg 25-1. Justin Thomas 25-1. As always, shop your odds. There's some differences and discrepancies based on the books out there. But John, anything that you've got your eye on this week at the top of the board that you think you might want to bet?
Trivia question.
Yeah.
Who do you think, because this caught me by surprise, who do you think led the field in strokes gained tee to green last week?
Was it Morikawa?
It was Colin Morikawa. Would have never guessed. Fell off coverage very early.
I was thinking about that as I was watching JJ Spaun just put on like a clinic of just consistently hitting fairways and dialing in from 120 yards. And I'm like, how isn't Colin Morikawa like this is the perfect major for him? It was absolutely so demanding of accuracy off the tee. He was putting on a ball striking clinic like Spaun, but his ineptitude with the putter is just costing him, and he's letting guys like Spaun and McIntyre and these in Hatton, players that are inferior to Morikawa, and he hasn't won in 3 years. It's just like so frustrating to me that he should have won that tournament. It was set up for him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That caught me by surprise. I've been wait and see with Colin because of the caddy shift. I thought
Yeah.
I thought he shifted caddies for the wrong reasons. I thought it was almost like a scapegoat for everybody else is winning and I'm not, so I have to change something up. I didn't I didn't like those vibes, and I didn't think this was like a partnership built on the right foundation for those reasons.
Yeah.
Um, but when you lead a major in strokes gained tee to green, your caddy has done his job. I don't think the caddy is at fault for Colin being almost last in putting. Sure, he's given him a line or whatever, but like I've seen enough now to feel like let's just play Colin on the courses that Colin should play well in. Um, he should play great here. He has not. His history is not great. It's surprising to me. My inference on that is just it's a major hangover, and he comes in disappointed, and he's had a lot of close calls at a U.S. Open, or maybe he just gets his ass kicked at a U.S. Open, like everybody did last week, and he needs an extra week to recharge and recover. But at this price, I mean, it's a perfect course for Colin. I feel much better about him than even Xander, who's won here, obviously, but the form is all over the place and no one knows what's going on with Rory. So to get Colin close to 20 on a positional golf course that's going to reward the best approach players, his distance is getting better too. So there's drivable fours here and fives that he'll get to. Like I have no reason not to like to talk myself off of Colin. The only thing would be the course history, but I just feel like there's no reason he shouldn't play well here. So I haven't bet him yet, but because I'm actually trying to decide am I going to bet him straight up or without Scotty. But that would be the one guy on this page that I like the most for sure.
Tend to agree with you. I just feel like there's something right now that is like a blocker for him being able to win tournaments. And I don't know what that is. So it's hard for me to continue to bet him as like the fourth highest priced player on the board. I think Xander's close. I haven't bet anyone in this range, full disclosure, and I'm probably not going to based on how my card is sort of shaping up below this. I think Xander is getting there. I saw a lot of positive signs at the US Open. I even think I was even looking at odds for the Open Championship. He's like 25 to 1 to win in Portrush. He's the defending champion of the Open Championship. I really feel like he's a good links golf player and has pretty good pedigree across the pond. So maybe something I'm looking forward. It gives him another month of practice to kind of round back into form and get some of the stuff cleaned up off the tee. But he's been really sharp with his approach play as well. Cantlay is the course history guy. Of course, not going to bet Scheffler at the top of the board. I mean, what do we do with Rory right now? Like, what do you think's going on? Let's speculate here for a second.
Yeah, I
All
went
hangover, like,
last year and I had to redact my takes after because I wrote my preview before the final round of Pinehurst was over. And I wrote this whole piece about how I think Rory can actually overpower the Travelers. He's played well there before. And I had to walk it back because he was just shell shocked at Pinehurst. Now, yeah, what do you do? Because it's the driver that's the problem. He can't play his gamer and he hasn't seemed to acclimate well to another club, which is crazy to me. Like you're still
yeah,
putting the best equipment in the world, which is designed to mitigate your misses, and they custom make it for Rory McIlroy's swing. So
right.
how off could it possibly be that you can't put this thing in play? That's odd to me. It's got to be. I mean, it could be something in the personal life. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe he simply does not have the will to be great anymore because he seems like he's set out to accomplish everything that he's wanted, but I don't in my heart believe that that's true. So, I don't know, maybe he's just took his foot off the gas and he wants to do a little
yeah,
honeymoon. I won a major. I won the Grand Slam and I'm going to take my foot off the gas and not kill myself to be the greatest golfer on the planet for a couple months. And hopefully by the Open, he gets his shit together again.
yeah. I can't decide. I can't stand that he said that personally. I like think of the greats across like all sport. And I'm like, I can't imagine any of them ever saying like, yeah, I'm kind of like won what I wanted to win, and I'm not really practicing. I'm not really putting in the effort. I don't really care as much as I used to. Which is essentially what he's
Yeah.
saying to us. He's not spent as much time on the range. He's been very open about it, so I do like appreciate that in a way. He's still, interestingly enough, so this course has a lot of shots that come from 120 to 180 yards, which is like the proximity 60-yard range that I've looked at. Number one in the field over the last 36 rounds in proximity gained from that particular range. Where he's not doing well is there are 71 guys in the field this week. He is 70th in driving accuracy. And I think that's too far of a jump. Look, I think you can get away with being like 35th in the field in driving accuracy. And if he's able to somehow climb into the top 30 this week, which as long as he hits it, he's going to be like in contention to win. I just think that's a big jump based on where the driver is currently at. Ever since the setup got screwed up after the Masters, he stopped practicing as much. He's changing clubs, he's changing heads, like everything that's going on outside of the ropes as well, which we may learn more about that at some point. I don't really know, but it's just hard for me to sit here and back him when he's kind of telling us that his heart's not really in it.
Yeah, I had this mega take that I was cooking up that I had so many opinions on it that I almost wrote a whole draft about it, but then I like didn't have anywhere to put it. So I just like I have a take in the drafts. But the take is essentially that Tiger has set the bar so high as the GOAT that all of our great players have no motivation to get there, and they hit their own mark, and then they say, I'm never going to be better than Tiger, so this is just good enough. And that's where Rory is now, and that's where Dustin Johnson got to before he joined Lives.
Interesting. Yeah, and Brooks kind of had his moments of that as well. I don't know. It's just like you see someone like Scotty and how much they care and how much they work, and you see how much Bryson cares and how much he works, even off a bad performance. You see what Victor Hovland's doing. Like, these guys are going to pass you, and you're allowing that to happen, and you're allowing like one of the best natural skill sets of our generation to not go wasted, but maybe not be maximized, like I was talking about earlier with Vic, and having that like tunnel vision to just being the best you can absolutely be by taking your foot off the gas in some of the majors. And he's not getting any younger, but he's still got plenty of game. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he did it. This next range, John, is pretty intriguing to me. So you get Vic off a good week, 33-1. Sammy B off a pretty good week as well, 35-1. Tommy Fleetwood, missed cut. Sepp Straka, missed cut. Keegan Bradley played well, as one here in the past. Corey Connors, 40-1. Withdrew. I haven't seen anything. Have you seen anything on Corey Connors' status this week?
It's still in the field as far as I've seen. I can't recall what the reason for the withdrawal
Yeah, it
was.
was a
He
wrist
wasn't.
injury. So
Okay.
he hurt himself basically in the rough. And Michael Kim played with him, and Michael Kim's been pretty awesome on Twitter.
Yeah,
If
he has.
you haven't been following him. So he documented and said that playing next to Corey Connors on Saturday was one of the craziest like ball striking exhibitions he's ever witnessed. And he said at some point he had a horrible lie in the rough late in the round and like the 15th hole, and really hurt his wrist. He said, I was surprised he even gutted it out and finished. And then he withdrew Sunday morning. So hope Corey Connors is all right, but a 40-1, it seems like a fair price on a good course fit if he is able to be healthy. Russ Henley, 40-1 off a good U.S. Open. Bobby Mack, great U.S. Open, 40-1. Spieth, 45. Lowry, 45. Ryan Spaun there at 50. Give me a guy or two you kind of like in this mid-tier.
Yeah, it's funny. This entire range is Ryder Cup or Ryder Cup fringe adjacent minus Connors. Yeah, I mean, I love Keegan. I wrote a lot about Keegan in my preview this week. I've loved him at this event before, just not the year that he won it. But he talks all the time about this being one of his favorite events. It's New England. He always gets the crowd on his side here. It's a ball striker's paradise. He always plays well here too. The course history is very good. He looked good last week. He was popular last week. He was coming in off of back-to-back top 10s, had another good performance. I think the number's good here. Plays Pete Dye course as well, plays short course as well. If it's decided with your irons, I like him in that setup. And when he won here, he was Ryder Cup fringe in 2023 for Rome. And I thought that he cemented his place on that team when he won in front of the pressure of this home crowd, really. And it could be a similar vibe. He comes in here this week with a little something to prove. He's got a lot of pressure now if he wants to pick himself. Burns is chasing him. Spaun just took an automatic spot. Most likely he's going to stay there. Ben Griffin's been playing great. So if he wants to pick himself, he needs to actually, separate from these guys who are also in great form. So a lot to play for this week with Keegan. Not so much a hangover week for him relative to some of the other guys coming off a major.
Yeah, agree with that. I like Keegan a lot. Have not pulled the trigger yet, but sort of circling right around him. Did bet Vic 33-1. I stated a lot of that case earlier on why I think that he's really sort of rounding into form. Gained 6 strokes on approach last week. He lost a couple left on Sunday. The first 3 days were unbelievable, and he missed a couple of greens uncharacteristic on Sunday. Even I'm thinking back to like some of the short wedges where guys like he had clear-cut birdie opportunities. He just lost them a little long. I think it had more to do maybe with the conditions than it was with like losing an ability to ball strike. But I think he's the best value on the board at 33-1. Also bet Aaron Rye, number 1 in driving accuracy. If we're going to play that mode that I think we've seen guys sort of follow that path here before. Keegan is a really accurate driver. Tom Kim is a really accurate driver. He gained 3.8 off the tee, 33rd at the U.S. Open. Not great, but top 20 of the PGA Championship as well. He's starting to really show up on these difficult courses. And I think if he can find himself a decent putting week, like even last year, putted pretty well at TPC River Highlands. Did not strike his irons well, but that's something that has been much more reliable for Aaron Rye. Gained 8.2 at the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow. I think he's been really good. His greens and regulation numbers around 150-yard mark is second best in the field. Course history kind of checks that box there. T24 when he last played this in 2023. I just think for me, above anything else, at 50-1 course fit. And so I'm taking the guy that I just feel like has that high-end upside and a course fit guy in Aaron Rye. And I probably have room to add one more. So I really like Corey Connors a lot this week. So before he withdrew, I put out the power rankings piece for this week really early over on Rotoballer Sunday morning and had him inside the top 3. So if I feel like he'll be healthy, that's a great number at 40-1. If not, I'll probably shift gears over to Keegan or maybe Sepp.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like Lowry a lot here too. I feel like he should be like 10 points shorter than this. He's been so consistent. You throw away performance last week for most of the field. I'm not going to overlook it. It's such a different test, as we said. We're focused on tee to green on short courses. A very different sort of questions that are being asked than what you had to deal with last week. And your strokes gain numbers can look ridiculous when you keep hacking out a rough and it going 2 feet. So I'm not going to overlook how he performed last week. I think it actually gives us a nice buy low number. He's played pretty well here. He's always good on positional courses. Obviously, he's not much of a closer. That's a concern. Yeah. But he's got himself in the mix so much that at this number, I think it's fair, especially in a limited field. I think 45 on Lowry's a pretty solid number.
That's a good call. You're right about the ball striking here being so much more rewarded. I think that we had a lot of really we didn't get the winner because I don't think anybody had Spaun, but we had a lot of really correct takes. I mean, we were circling it. I talked a lot about Burns. You talked a lot about Hovland. We both talked about devaluing strokes gained approach, which was strange for a major. I feel like that was a little bit spicy on both of us. And looking back, Spaun 31st in approach, McIntyre 23rd, Hovland was 3rd, but then Cam Young was 52nd. So out of the top 4 guys on the leaderboard, only one was in the top 20 in approach for the week, which is pretty wild. Even tee to green, JJ Spaun was 28th in strokes gained tee to green last week. It's incredible that he won. If anything, it turned into a little bit of a putting contest because 3 of the top 4 were ranked in the top 4. But just an interesting week, and I think something that you can go back to because Shane Lowry's been so consistent off the tee. He's been one of the best approach players in the field that you kind of have to erase your memory, go full Men in Black thing on the memory eraser, and forget about what happened at Oakmont and his raging, and just understand this is a course that is much more rewarding to his skill set.
Yeah, one other thing I would add too, if you're gonna look into strokes gain metrics last week, keep in mind like if you hit it into a bunker or you hit it into thatch fescue and you punch it out laterally, that annihilates your strokes gain approach numbers because it's your second shot on a par 4 and you're not putting it on the green, you're putting it 100 yards out still. So you're going to lose so many strokes on approach being put in a situation where you have to shoot away from the hole. So I wouldn't look too far into it again. It's just like whatever happened last week, it's a different game that they were playing at Oakmont. And it actually sets up for good buy low opportunities. So I've been kind of taking that approach looking at my bets this week.
All right, here's a couple we start to get into the long shot range. Daniel Berger 50-1, Cam Young 50-1, Hideki 55, Siwoo 55, Ben Griffin 55-1, Mav McNeely 60 on Sung J M at 65-1. You get Taylor Pendrith, Adam Scott, Tony Finau. Then we get Harris English, Akshay Bhatia, JT Poston. Luke Clanton is back at 80-1 here, John. Any guys, what are your thoughts in this range?
Yeah, see, Ben Griffin heat check week. He just keeps doing it in all categories. So he doesn't have great history here, but like he's hot, and that's a pretty good number for someone who's one of the hottest players in the field. So I'm thinking about as gross it is as it might be. I'm thinking about Ben Griffin. I just pulled up Siwoo because I feel like this is a perfect Siwoo course, and he has really bad history here for the most part, which is unusual. He has fantastic history at all the other Pete Dye courses. This is like the only Pete Dye course he has not played well at. So that's peculiar to me. Doesn't make sense. He might be due. I don't think I'll bet him, but that's like everything I would look for in a DFS play. So that's probably how I'll get my exposure to Siwoo. Keeping tabs on Tony, like he's looking good. We're about to hit the Tony stretch where he's got the 3M and the Rocket Mortgage.
Yeah, that's right.
He might be bookend, wrap around and finding his form there and talking ourselves into him being a Ryder Cup guy all of a sudden because he won 2 easy courses. Keeping an eye on it because the form's not awful. He's just been a non-factor in so many recent events. So monitoring the situation with Tony, but as far as bets in this range, it might be Ben Griffin. It may be Berger, but nobody is really jumping off the page to me on this page.
Cam Young got hit hard this morning. I think there were 66s. I've seen some spots where he's down to 40-1 now. 59 here. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. I forgot.
Was that last year?
He did do that. It was either last year or the year before. I forgot that he did that, but he did do that.
Looking really good, though. I mean, lost in a playoff, or I'm sorry, just missed out on getting into that playoff in Toronto. Looked great, I thought, last week. Seems as disgruntled as ever, but he's back playing well. This is the shout, Northeast Golf Course seems like a place that Cam Young might go well. I did bet Daniel Berger 50-1. You touched on it. The tee to green stuff is still outstanding. He is putting horribly at the moment, and that basically continued at the U.S. Open, from my understanding. Let me see if he was that bad. No, he was 22nd in putting, so finally a good putting week for Danny B. Finished T46 at the U.S. Open. Has good history here. When he was playing the Travelers Championship, he lost in that epic fashion out of the bunker to Jordan Spieth here a long time ago, but maybe rekindle and feels like that was a lost one that he can get back this year. Still just feel like he's playing so good, tee to green, a lot on his mind, needs to get a victory, has gotten himself in the signature events, has Ryder Cup prospects, but he needs a win. He needs at least the second place. I think this is a great course fit for him. I was with you, wanted to love Siwoo, but for some reason this is the one Pete Dye track doesn't really have a handle on. So that Griffin's my guy as well, 55-1. So I have Berger and Griffin at those two prices. So right now the card is I have it as it stands is Hovland, Rye, Berger, Griffin. Those are my four, and I got one long shot. If you want to talk about it, do you see anyone like really far down the board you have an interest in? I don't have another page up, but any guys deep in the field you think might play well?
I was looking for a reason to get on a long shot here because I do think we saw Ches Reavie do it, seeing guys deep down the board without much form come out here and do it. Denny, I've seen 100. I don't hate that. I mean, he's played a lot of his best golf in the Northeast. Likes
Yes.
this. I mean, he loves Bermuda, but he also seems to like really any surface, and he has good results on Bepoa. I know I don't have to sell you too much on Denny, but forms looked good enough. The approach play, he's gaining. He can win. This can be a putting contest. But he's better than just a putting specialist. He's becoming an above average player in the other metrics too. So wouldn't shock me. We'll see if I have room to get to him, but my card is looking like Morikawa, Lowry, Keegan, and we'll see where else I go from there.
You got room for 100-1 guy.
Yeah, I probably do. I don't know. I'm gonna make some bad decisions at the top because I've got too much to play with. But that's why I'm thinking I just go to without Scotty market because I got so much room. I might as well just chop off some value because I don't love too many guys this week.
I know. I'm gonna dig into without Scotty stuff too. All you have to do to sell me on Denny is just say Denny. So I'm probably in there. There's a 250-1 on Gary Woodland that I selfishly took. Got no statistical data driven backing to do that other than it was like the highest odds in the field, and I want to root for Gary Woodland. So 250-1. We'll keep an eye on the Scotty without markets. My book hasn't posted them yet down here in Florida, but as they start to come out, may make some adjustments there. Full card, as always, will be out on Wednesday. I'm scared. I'm nervous because, as we talked about last week, this course, we figured like Scotty wasn't going to win, right? Because there's just the unfairness and the variable factor. Doesn't really happen here. He's kind of figured it out, and when he figures it out, he goes back and wins again. So that's the big hurdle that everyone's going to be looking for, a fourth and a first. So continuing to monitoring. John, as always, great to have you on the show tonight. Any parting words, articles up? What do you got coming out this week? What are you fired up for?
Yeah, same old. Nothing too new from a content standpoint. So I'll have some sleepers up tomorrow and the bets up the day after. But I am excited for this tournament. I'm excited to look out for specifically the Fringe Ryder Cup guys. We're back in the Northeast. It's like I'm not going to River Highlands this week, but I feel it. I'll be there in spirit. And we're within 3 months of the Ryder Cup now. We're coming up on it. So that's where my kind of head is at now. I'm excited to see mid-season form from these guys. It's a really fun watch, and I don't always love that they stack these signature events because I feel like it forces guys to go to an event they're not actually up for. But in this case, the fans kind of bring it out to you, so nobody's going to be sleepwalking at this event. And I think a lot of them are actually looking for a little bit of a palate cleanser after getting their asses kicked at Oakmont. So should be a good week.
Awesome, man. Rocket Classic show next week. We'll be out next Monday. Then we're doing John Deere. Then we go to Scotland, I think. And then we'll be at Portrush. The last major of the year is here in less than 4 weeks. So season is going extremely fast. Can't wait for the Ryder Cup as well. We'll be here each and every Monday night to break down the upcoming event, to recap the one before it, and hopefully have a little fun with you guys along the way. As always, subscribe. Telling a friend goes a hell of a long way. The link below in the bio to either the video on Twitter or on Spotify, if you're listening just to the audio podcast, or if you're watching this over on YouTube, has a link to the Preferred Lines Tees, a shop where you can support the show as well. Use that promo code LINE over at BetSperts. You guys are absolutely awesome. Thanks for checking out the show. Best of luck. Hope you hit a winner this week. John, hope you or I hit a winner at some point, but we're
due.
gonna nail one here at some point.
Circle in the drain.
All right, guys, have a good one. See you later.